Yeah. All right, we live. I'm live. I'm live with Max. It's Rob. We got another episode. We did an episode last week. It was so great that Max said, "Hey man, let's do it again." So what you say, Max?
I say glory to the highest.
Oh yes, to the Most High. All praises to Him.
Amen. And we were talking a moment ago, Rob and I, off mic, if you will, off air, however
Yeah.
the proper verbiage is, and we started out with really great, just a couple of topics off the cuff, nothing that was scripted or anything, just me asking Rob a few questions and Rob throwing back the answers that were coming from the heart that were true. And we can take it from there, honestly, or Rob has some really great questions that he's got written down and ready to go. And I think that no matter what route we go, I think they're really good topics. I think that they're really relevant, and I think that they all deserve attention. So,
Definitely.
so
Definitely.
it's something that I think it's if I could say without being taken the wrong way, because I don't want to be misunderstood,
Right.
that though you might find what I say or what Rob says or what I do or what Rob does to be entertaining and or amusing, it's also allowing you to hopefully not if you are, and not saying that you are, but it gives you a chance to not be closed minded, to be
Exactly.
more open minded, to see for yourself with your own eyes the two individuals that really just met each other for a week that happened to be of opposite color. And you know what? We've had some great conversations. We seem to get along just fine, and I don't
Yeah.
know that that's going to change.
Right. Right.
So,
Definitely. That's important. It's definitely important.
you know, did, are you familiar with the the phrase "Don't drink the Kool Aid"? Have you heard that?
Yes. Yes. Heard that phrase before.
Do you
Yes.
know where that comes from?
I thought it came from Jim Jones, the actual uh was like a preacher or something. Am I mistaken or am I right?
No, no, you're right. You're right.
Oh.
You're right.
Wow. Wow. I hit it on the head. Surprise. Yeah. So I heard that story about Jim Jones where he had people drinking Kool-Aid and they were dying. So yeah, so that's deep. But listen, in this show, we're gonna go over some politics, we're gonna go over some religion, and we're gonna go over some sports. We're gonna give y'all our honest takes on it. We're not gonna, it's good to just see open-minded two people that got together to talk about this stuff, and maybe we can learn something from you. If you guys want to put something in the comments, I've been learning a lot from Max. I'm sure Max been hearing a lot from me, my side. But
Absolutely, 100%.
as we without further ado, I want to get into what I want to ask you, Max, is about because you told me you love to talk about like biblical philosophy, right?
Yes.
And I wanted to talk to you about the gender war that's been going on right now. I'm gonna get that into politics because we see a lot of it's been seeing a lot of women that's been on, our politics, and we've been hearing a lot of, I'm a woman, and been seeing this in politics. What who do you think benefits from this gender war, or do you think there's a gender war going on right now? And what's your take on that?
I think my honest take would be to look at the way that the rest of the world sees America and the United States. And I say this with no disrespect whatsoever directed towards females.
Right.
But a lot of the countries that we deal with, a lot of those countries don't necessarily have the respect for a female
Mm-hmm.
that we do here in the United States.
Right.
Now, with that said, we haven't had a female president that has been in office that I know of.
No, no, we haven't.
We haven't. We do have our current vice president, who is female,
Kamala Harris. Yeah.
and without having to say that she's done a poor job or she's done a great job or she's just been present,
Right.
that's for the people to decide. And I don't represent the people. I can only speak for myself.
Right.
But I believe that the people see for themselves what goes on around them, and unless they want to live a lie, then you can see that maybe certain individuals have underachieved or overpromised and underdelivered. Could be another way to look at it.
Okay. So, with your biblical knowledge, biblically, do you feel that uh what the Most High wanted us, instructed us to operate, do you feel like it's okay for a woman to operate in a leader's position, or do you feel like biblically the Most High gave us instructions for a man to be a leader? How do you feel on that? Is that a gray area for you, or are you strict on feeling that the Most High wanted man to lead and women to be a nurturer and follow the man's lead? How do you feel on that?
If we go by what is said in biblical scripture, according to what we learned in the second book of the Bible, being Exodus, that God basically gave Moses 10 rules to follow and
Right.
to give to the people. But in my interpretation of those laws, I do not see where a female could not be in a position to lead others.
Right.
Historically, you generally think of one person when it comes, whether it be modern history or ancient history, as a leader of an entire empire. And you think of Cleopatra.
Cleopatra, right. And she was a woman that had many men as well.
Many men,
Um,
many powerful
and
men.
yeah, many powerful men. But that was to her demise as well. Um, so but in hit throughout history, we have never seen that. Now, there was a movie that came out. I didn't like the movie. Um, my mom and grandma went and seen a movie and they was talking about this movie. And this movie was called Woman King. I don't know if you heard about this movie or whatever, where it was women running around and they were very masculine, just taking over, and they were saying that this was done in Africa. And I didn't like the movie. I feel like it just kind of pushed, women to kind of be thinking in a more masculine way, but that's just my opinion. But how do you feel? So, are you in the belief that because we've been having a lot of transgenders has been big now. We've been having, even in we had sports where men are turning into women are turning into men. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that the Most High made us in a way that we should stay that way, or you feel like it's okay? How do you take on that with your beliefs and how you feel? How do you take this gender thing?
I think that the Most High doesn't make those kind of mistakes.
Right.
Not,
Exactly.
you know, I don't see that as a mistake. I think that is just an overextension of the free will that you have already and abusing it. And for what gain, I don't understand because it doesn't make sense to me, and it'll never make sense to me.
Right.
It's me, and it's based on what I believe versus based on respecting the individuality and individualism of another person. Some can get conflicted by it, but you shouldn't get conflicted by it if you stand by your convictions and your beliefs. So if
Um,
you believe something is wrong, then you should speak up about it and speak out about it. But you should do so in a manner that is. I've always believed that I could get through to somebody by yelling at them. And it took me a long time to realize that if somebody isn't listening to me in a calm, sensible, collected voice with an empathetic, compassionate message and way about myself in the presentation,
right.
where are they going to, what are they going to think with me yelling and screaming? They're not even going to listen to me at all. They're going to be tuned out before I get two words out. So, you know,
Okay.
excellent question. I mean, what do you think?
What I think about the genders, yeah, I think that this became political with the genders now because it's not just, in the church. I mean, how I grew up, I remember, sitting and hearing a preacher say, uh, God made Adam and God made Eve. He didn't make Adam and Steve. And I remember hearing that, and I guess that stuck with me to where it was like, you are what God made you, and that's what you are. Okay. In a certain way where God made you, where certain things that you have to understand. It's a role that you have to play when you get older, you become a dad, certain things that you got to take accountability for. So I was never a fan of the political gender switch that you can do. Okay, I guess because the way I was brought up, in my community, it was frowned upon. If you seen that, But the crazy thing is, it wasn't too much frowned upon with the woman as much, but definitely with the man. You know, which is weird. But if a woman was more manly, it didn't get as much, you know, uh, I guess looked down upon than actually a male would. So that's my take on it. What do you?
I think we can go full circle back
Yeah,
to the original questions of, female and president. Certain things are more or less tolerated, not so much accepted by a certain gender.
yeah,
They do it than the other.
hmm, exactly,
I don't
exactly.
think it makes it right. I don't think it makes it wrong. That's not for me to decide. It would
Hmm.
be I can write no edict that's going to be able to validate it either way. I can just tell you what was written by those before me and how those currently that don't necessarily have to be me or you few things in this
Hmm.
book.
Yeah.
And that's not me being mean or me being, I'm not discriminating against anybody. I'm just telling you the way that the world works.
Right.
If I told you this, that this is, so let's say, for example, that there's a Garden of Eden, okay? We
Right.
got Adam and we got Eve. And
Right.
then the snake comes along. The snake represents wrongdoing, evil, the devil, whatever you want to call it, however you want
Right.
to view it. And then with that comes one of the seven deadly sins, which is temptation. And then that temptation is presented in such a way that it's presented by both parties. And it's done in a sneaky way. One way is to do the test.
Right.
That's the way that the Almighty does it. You can eat
Right.
until you will never go hungry. You will never be thirsty. Eat all you want, all the fruit, all the drink. Oh, but not that one. And we know exactly what's going to happen. That's the one that we want to we're a little curious about. And then that curiosity, it comes and goes. We go about our day, we go about our life. And this is just Adam and Eve at this time. And they're going about their day, their life. And then Eve, she's out on her own. She's out there. Snake comes along. Snake seems friendly enough. Snake didn't do anything wrong, right? Snake's just talking to her. She's talking to the snake. Snake's like, you hungry, huh? Well, you can eat anything here. Isn't that what the Lord said? She said, well, yeah. Why don't you eat that apple over there? And she's like, no, I can't eat that one. But somehow you get deceived and tricked and you eat that apple, right? And whilst doing so, and the woman eats the apple first, okay? And the woman has an egg. Follow me on this. I promise you, it's not.
Wow. That's how.
This isn't crazy thing.
Wow.
The woman has an egg, and she's just eating this apple, which has seeds in it already, as we all know apples do. And then, when she takes the apple and she takes a bite from the forbidden fruit, also known as the fruit from the tree of knowledge, as soon as she did that, she knew she was she gained knowledge immediately because of what she did, and in doing so, she deceived Adam by still letting him eat the fruit or eat from the fruit. And in doing so, when Adam did it, okay,
Right.
his flaw, his punishment for doing it, other than hiding from the Lord, both of them, when he came to see where they were, he couldn't find them, as was written.
Right.
And the serpent, he got what he wanted in the end. But if you think about it, once that fruit was eaten from the tree of knowledge, and the opportunity was there to not allow Adam to be corrupted, and yet he was still allowed to be corrupted. The end result of that, if we go back to Genesis and we read in the first book of Genesis, then we know that after what happened in the garden, that man was going to have the seed of the serpent already in his DNA. And no matter what, it's going to be there because we've all sinned in his eyes at that point in time because we disobeyed. Now, I take it a step further. If we go and look at what God had said after that, he said the next time that there would be anything, I will separate myself from the seed. He didn't say anything about separating from the egg. The egg, you leave it alone. Egg's good. But he said he will separate from the seed. That way, whoever comes next will be of me. And if you think about it, the seed comes from the man.
Mm-hmm.
The seed, if you look at it under a microscope, scientifically even, has the shape, the head of a serpent, along with the tail. It's in a competition to be the first one to get to the egg. So, in my interpretation of just that, and being inherently, I wouldn't say evil or bad, but that shows me, if I am to believe, that there is already a seed that has been planted in us from generations well before us or our grandfathers, fathers, etc., so on and so forth, that there's nothing we can do to break, unless, of course, we live a righteous life according to these 10 laws that really don't vary from one religion to the next if it comes to the major religions in the
Right.
United States. And to me, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense, at least in my eyes, that it's telling, kind of like we were talking about earlier, more people believe in Bigfoot and aliens than they do God.
Right.
That's that's wild. So is the answer to tell everybody that God is a Bigfoot alien? Is that the way
Right.
to get the interest back up?
No, but I'm glad. I mean, hearing that story from you now, it gave me a different. I don't know why this came to my head, but it gave me a different perspective. You said the serpent tried to convince the woman to eat the apple, right? Just hearing it from you now, it just made me think. So, how could that? We know the serpent is evil, right? So, how could that relate to today? Because I asked you a question. I said, with women in leadership, you know, um, would evil or would the evil or Satan, would he prefer women to be in more of a leadership role because of, let's say, a situation like that? If we bring it back to, Genesis terms, do you think that a woman could be more deceived into doing wrong, or do you think it doesn't matter, right?
Well, I think that is, so let's say that there's a chess game and it's
Right,
going on between the Almighty and the one that he booted from his kingdom above. Lucifer, he's called many names,
right,
and I give him as little acknowledgement as humanly possible. And not because I fear him by any means, quite the contrary. You have to understand one in order to understand the other. In order to know your enemy, you must know your enemy, but you must know your enemy's past.
Right.
Okay? So there is no fear of the devil unless he tempts you and you succumb to what he is offering you. Just like anybody else now. They find out what you want, they give it to you. Next thing you know, you ask for it again, they give it to you. Another time, same thing. You're hooked. Whether that's a paycheck, whether that's a drug, whether that's alcohol, whatever your demon is, whoever your master is, you can't serve more than one master.
Hmm. True. True.
Who is their master? I mean, is your master alcohol? Is that who you serve? I don't know. I don't mean you,
No.
Rob. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah. No. 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 I get
I
you. I
mean,
get
I'm just saying it's just a matter of each body, each individual having that free will and temptation,
you. Right.
and some of us not recognizing that the further we get away from what was written by the hand of the Almighty Himself on tablets with the tip of His finger, then I think everything in this world that we currently live in can be summarized in a way that to make sense of it is this. If you cut it up in pieces, there are three different aspects, dimensions. I don't mean that as far as like different dimensions, but we spend time in three different worlds if we're aware that they exist. There's the world of man, which is the world that we live in, that we go to work, that we have our house, that we have our child, that we have our
Right.
wife, we've procreated. The natural world would be another way to talk about it or speak to it. And we have the supernatural, things that we do not understand, things we do not know, things of a holy nature, things of a biblical or of a godly nature, things of how it's not a coincidence that the moon and sun, or vice versa, at different times throughout history can overshadow one when they're so far apart and the size difference is so immense, but yet one can block out the other.
Right.
And for that to be considered a coincidence is, like I said, everyone is entitled to believe what they want, no matter what book you read. If you don't feel something to be true, to be honest, then it doesn't matter. You had to feel it, you had to want it. And it's it's telling nowadays, unfortunately, the direction that I think that this nation, this country, this republic, if you will, is gone.
It's gone. I'm glad you brought that up. Are you familiar with the rapper? I mean, not the rapper, the fighter Ryan Garcia.
Ryan Garcia, UFC fighter.
No, he's actually a boxer. He lost to Tank. I don't know if you follow boxing, but anyway, this guy he went on a rant. I wish I can show you the rant, um, but he went on a rant where saying that some people tied him up and watched them do some strange things to some kids. And he was saying how the Bohemian Grove is real. Have you ever heard about the Bohemian Grove in California?
The Bohemian Grove.
Yeah. Well, it's a place in California where they said some ritual behavior and has been going on where it's been some sacrifices and some weird satanic behavior. And Ryan Garcia says that he's he's exposing this to the world they tied him down and they let him watch. He was able to get away. Now he's a professional boxer. Um, but we were speaking about evil, the serpent and Satan, Lucifer. Do you feel there are more people that uh that they believe or pledge into Satan, Lucifer than they do the Most High?
I'm glad you asked that question because that allows me to introduce you to the third world or the third dimension.
Right.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. The artificial world. Right now, we're using it in good ways, but this world, the artificial world, the world of LED lights, bright lights, the control of the lights, the color of the lights, pagan rituals,
hmm
sacrifices. Before Rome was an empire, it was a republic. There were 12 emperors of Rome, 12 months in the year. Our calendar here in the Western world is called the Julian calendar, named after Julius Caesar. The Hebrews still go by the same calendar they have for millennia, the Gregorian calendar. That's why a Jewish New Year is generally in the 10th month.
October, right?
Yeah, that's why it was calculated. The difference between the two calendars is a fraction of a day that is accounted for. That's why we have a leap year. That's why every 4 years, this being a leap year, is one of the reasons we went to the Julian calendar as opposed to the Gregorian calendar, because it was figured out that every 400 years on an even year, you can add an extra day.
Hmm.
But as we adopted a lot of the principles of the Roman Republic and many of the bad ones from ancient Rome as an empire, all the same, we still have learned nothing at all. And I say that about even my own people right now.
Hmm.
By my own people, I'm talking about the people of Israel.
Right.
Have they not seen enough? Do they not know that on the day of atonement, the holiest day to the Jewish people, Yom Kippur? Do you know about Yom Kippur, Rob?
Nope. No, know about that. If you can explain.
I can. I can. I'll make it even. I'll make it simple because off mic once again, or well, what's the right terminology? Is it off mic or off air, or is it pretty much the
Off
same?
air. Yeah.
Off. Okay, off air. Anybody who might be interested and who does not know, 1 in 4 Americans above the age of 18, so adults, are
hmm
illiterate. Okay, and 54% of adults, those 18 and over, are at a sixth grade reading level at best. I'm not talking about things that are just exclusive to fast food workers, cashiers. No, 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 no. This goes to skilled workers. This goes to lots. This goes to everybody. But I digress and say this. We, Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. When Moses was given the tablets of the Ten Commandments, while he was up on the mountain receiving this edict, if you will, from the Almighty, And the people grew restless, wondering what's taking Moses so long. Where's Moses? They asked Aaron. And Aaron says, take off the gold, take off your rings, take off your jewelry. The people did what they asked. The people wanted to become godly, or be in front of the God, or be of God. And the gold was taken, the jewelry was taken, and was thrown in the fire, and out of the fire came a golden calf. Have you heard this story?
Have it.
I promise you, it's in the Bible. I wouldn't make it
Yeah.
up.
No, I'm here. I'm with
I'd be writing books myself right now if this was my.
you. Right.
But and then they reverted back to their pagan ways, directly breaking one of the laws of the Lord, as he has written on these tablets with his finger, given to Moses, who he spoke to as a friend. That's how he addressed to him, or how it was interpreted.
Right.
So Moses is coming down with the laws. He's seeing them with this pagan cow made of gold, drops the tablets, they break. Have you heard of that part of the story?
Hmm.
Okay. He couldn't believe it. These people, his people, God's chosen people, are doing what? And then after this, to beg for forgiveness and to get back in his graces, to be a forgiving, merciful Lord, he does so multiple times. And then if you go into that day that happened even further, 3,000 of the Israelites died because of their sin or atonement. And that
Right.
is why Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the Jewish religion.
Right.
So,
Wow.
so look at October 7th. It's a Saturday,
Right.
the holiest day to the Lord for the Israelites or the Jews or the people there in Israel. So, what better way to upset and anger the Lord than to have a concert, a festival during his day on his holy land, during his time to be worshiped and meditated on his word? You decide to carry on with the music festival where you have some sort of it was a I don't know, was it Buddhist type statue or
Right.
secular extent. There was several statues, idols, if you want to call them idols, that were there, that were present on that day where these 3,000 people were. 3,000 again comes up that was advertised. So that gave the enemy, and in this case, you want to call the enemy Hamas, that's fine. Whatever. I'm not going to say anything. That's whatever.
Hmm.
The enemy could be Hamas, or the enemy could be the devil, and using Hamas as one of an extension or a satellite, just like anything else, and doing bad deeds upon his people. But in this case, where was he? They asked to save his people, his chosen people. Well,
Right.
his chosen people are sitting there on his day, at his time, doing their thing. You do not want to test the Lord. You do not want to make him angry. And October 7th happened to be a day where they decided to test the
Sabbath.
Lord. Yes, on the Sabbath
Right.
in Israel, in the same location that Moses and the Israelites wandered for 40 years. The concert was held in the same location that Moses and the Israelites wandered for 40 years.
Wow, that is wow. So I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Um, Muslims, it's Ramadan starting. The relationship between Muslims and Jews. What is that like? I'm from the outside looking in, but what is that in your eyes from hearing it from you? What is the relationship between the Muslim culture and the Jewish culture?
Well, it's complicated. But from if we're talking about in the Middle East or Northern Africa in
Right,
modern day, then the Jewish people would be considered a minority that are surrounded by a large majority of Arab states, which happen to have a majority of Muslims, which are, just in case people don't know, Muslims are those who follow Islam, if I'm not mistaken.
yep.
Islam is a religion brought to the Prophet Elijah Muhammad, if I'm not
Elijah
mistaken,
Muhammad, yep.
by the angel Gabriel,
Mm-hmm.
delivered to him, and um, I'm trying to remember everything in the Quran at one time while segueing back and forth to the Bible, but it's I'm it's there's more similarities in the two as far as what they say, what they tell, than not.
Right. So do you believe the Muslim culture, because that's what Gaza and the Hamas, they believe in this. Um, what are the conflicts that make the religion uh to make them two class? Like the Palestine is mostly Muslims, correct? They are, correct? Or I think it's another one. It's not Muslim too, but it's actually
Well, I
Buddhist.
mean,
Buddhist or
well, in Muslim, you've got your Sunni and your Shia,
right,
and the difference being one believes that whoever is of the blood of Elijah Muhammad is to be the one that leads all the Muslims, if I'm understanding it correctly. And I
right,
don't recall if it's Sunni or Shia that is more, I don't want to use the word radical necessarily, but one is definitely a little more, hmm, one is a minority, the other is a majority.
yeah, yeah,
And it's the numbers are pretty staggering as far as which one's which, and I don't recall. I want to say the Sunni would be the minority, yet it would be the more radical of the
yeah,
two.
right,
So if the Sunni Muslims and the Shiite Muslims are both reading the same Quran,
Quran,
yeah, Quran, I apologize, and they're both reading the same Quran, then the interpretations are a little bit off. And I'm not giving an excuse to the Jewish people because if they're having an interpretation of the Old Testament, the Torah, that is telling them to be violent towards whether you want to call them Arabs, whether you want to call individuals Muslims, it makes no difference. But if that's being taught, if that's being preached, then that's the wrong message to send either way on
Wow.
both
So you're saying, wait, so you're saying in the Torah, the Turan, I'm sorry, that the Jewish culture is not supposed to go to war?
No, no, not necessarily. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying they're. I'm not saying that they're not natural enemies, but I'm not saying that Arabs and Jews are natural enemies. We all come from the blood of Abraham, so we're both reading essentially the same book. We're praying to the same God. We're talking about
Right.
the same Gabriel. There's more in common than not in between the two religions, but I think it's interpretation and depending on whose interpretation it is and whose interpretation it is you want to listen to, it's going to make a
Mm-hmm.
difference on how you're going to act on it. And there again, I think it has a lot to do with where you are in the world because it's impossible for me to relate to anybody that's living in Afghanistan. It's impossible for me to live or relate to someone who is living in, for example, even Syria
Right.
or you know, in Gaza because the things that they have to deal with on a daily basis aren't anything near what we have to deal with here in the United States. It's not even close.
Not even close. No, no, no. But you said something about pagan holidays. You've been in America for a long time. Do you celebrate any of these pagan holidays?
I no.
No. Do any Jewish people celebrate any pagan holidays?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
How and how could that be? Wouldn't that be a problem with their culture? But explain to me that. Like how could they do that knowing the history of what happened to their culture or to their people?
I think when it comes down to it, I think it comes down to it, what you might have just said right there is knowing and not knowing. If you don't know their pagan holidays to begin with, then you don't know what it is that you're celebrating. If you don't know that the month of January is named after the Greek god Janus, which is if you I don't if you look up Janus, the Greek god rather, it is a two-headed deity. They had him on coins. If you
Right,
bring up a picture of him, you can see him. You recognize him right away. One side of his face, because he has two faces, two heads. One is young, one is old, because one's looking in the future, the one sees the past. And on New Year's, he is supposed to be the keeper of keys, the opener of doors and portals, and he's got some other labels as well. So
right.
when you are celebrating New Year's Eve and you're opening December to January, and that would be more or less Janus opening up 1 year to the next, saying goodbye with the old face and with the younger face looking in the other direction to the new year. But it goes back still to it. It's a Greek pagan ritual
Holiday
that's
ritual. Yeah,
that's celebrated, but people don't realize it. Nike.
what it is.
A lot of people know Nike, and they realize, or I like to think they realize that Nike is the Greek goddess of victory.
Hmm.
So
All of this Greek stuff. Wow. What about the Greek fraternities and sororities? Is that the same, comes from the same, Greek, that whole Roman power?
the Greeks and the Romans had their similarities because they took a lot from one culture and adopted it into the other with the Senate, etc. But their their similarities are sororities and fraternities, for example. It's it's a you know it can be almost cult like, and in some cases it is. If you go to Yale University, for example, there's Skull and Bones. It's a real thing. Presidents have been in it. I believe that John Kerry and George W. Bush were both members of it, if I'm not mistaken. And when they were debating, it was a hot topic back in the early 2000s because they're in the sorority called Skull and Bones, and some of the initiations that this secret exclusive fraternity has are based on old pagan rituals. So I think that there's a lot of things that are still pagan rituals that are thrown in front of us that we've just learned to accept and we don't even recognize, or we recognize it but we don't think anything of it more than what it is and try not to look any deeper into it than what it is. Why are all the Super Bowls still written in Roman numerals? They don't even teach cursive in school anymore, let alone Roman numerals. So,
Hmm. Right. So why don't you celebrate the holidays, you personally? Because of
because,
go ahead.
no, no, no. I don't celebrate it because I don't want to go backwards. I don't
Right.
need to go backwards. Those old pagan rituals, those old pagan holidays, those old ways, they're not necessary. We don't require sacrifice. The Jews think they're still making a blood sacrifice by making circumcisions, as though God asked them to do that.
Do you feel like that's wrong?
No, just because we know now that there's a benefit to it when it comes to, uh, excuse me, cleanliness and a sort. And I'm not saying that if you're not circumcised, you are dirty there,
Right.
because you have the ability to clean, etc., etc. But 1,000, 2,000 years ago, a little bit different. Not everybody had Dove and Old Spice or Axe or whatever everybody else is using right now. Antibacterial soaps to where you had the hygiene that you do now and the awareness of how important hygiene is, short of being able to listen and obey what the Lord and the books are telling you.
Right.
So, but if you're still doing circumcisions because you believe that that's what God wants you to do and it's a requirement, no, no. People, they misinterpret all kinds of things. The number of the beast. They're looking at dates for 666. They're thinking it's 1999 or it happened in 666 BC or AD. No. What about just the simple fact that maybe that's just his number? Like a football player has a number, like a
Right.
basketball player
As
has
a number.
a number. Like, that
Mm.
is just his number. Because if I tell you that you have six protons, six neutrons, and six electrons as a part of your constitution, then are you going to all of a sudden think that you're a demon?
Right.
That's nonsense. So it's just one of those things that it's you can look at it and contemplate over it for hours, I think.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Max, now I wanted to ask you about the relationship of the Jewish and the Democratic Party. Do you think that I don't know if you're familiar with George Soros. You familiar with George Soros?
He is a terrible representative of the people of Israel and the Jewish people, he
Right,
is
right.
more Nazi than he is Jew.
And every race, we they all got those, it's good and then it's bad. And we understand that. But I was talking to you about the relationship of the Jewish community and the Democratic Party. Do you think that's borderline? I ain't gonna say borderline. Do you think that's not right with the control that's being reported, that's being said amongst other organizations on the power that the top of the Jewish community have on the Democratic Party? What do you think about that?
I think that's an excellent question, Rob. That's really a powerful question. I think that depending on how deep you are as far as involvement goes with the party, then yes, you have a certain commitment and obligation at that point, if you're at the very top, to continue to support, fund, and do whatever is necessary for the agenda of the party and the greater good of the party as a whole. Because at
Right,
that point in time, you're so far up in the food chain, you don't need money. Okay.
right,
Money, you got it already. You don't necessarily need fame or notoriety because you don't want to have the left hand see what the right hand is doing and
right,
vice versa. So, what it comes down to is that there are certain individuals that just happen to be Jewish that have a lot of power, a lot of money, and a lot of influence to a level that we could not comprehend, that are in it playing the long game, all right? And they have no choice or option to turn back. It's all in, all or nothing, no going back. And whether or not it's right or wrong, I don't think it's a morality issue at that point. I think that you're just so much invested in the party itself and being in a position of so much power and prominence that you're terrified at the risk of losing it.
right,
So I think it's a great question. It really is, and I would hate to ever be anyone with that type of. I would want nothing to do with that.
right, right. Yeah,
And that doesn't just go for Democrats. The same thing for Republicans because anyone with too much power is just not good. Just like too much of anything is a
no
bad
good for
thing.
you.
Yeah, it really is.
Right. So, do you believe that in a Jewish community, there's people that worship Satan and Lucifer himself,
I
or do
think that
you
it
feel like
goes beyond just even in the Jewish community. Sure, I think it goes to everybody. I think
every
it's
community? Yeah.
everybody. Yeah, I think that he's known as the great deceiver, and he's known.
Mm,
Yeah, there is probably nobody, no human right now that reads the Bible more than the devil.
mm.
That that devil knows that Bible better than the Pope, any priest, any preacher, any minister that I can think of on earth, short of the Lord Himself.
Lord
It's
himself.
just
Wow.
because if they're at battle, at odds with one another, then it would be in his best interest to know as much about what he can perceives to be his enemy, the Lord, then you're going to want to know as much about him as possible. But no matter what he does, he'll never win. But he's got nothing better to do other than continue to
Right,
lose.
right, right, right. Um, I got another good question for you. Um, do you go to church now?
When you say church, you mean actually going
To a
to?
building? Yeah.
Oh, no, no,
No. Okay. But you consider something else church? Like
yes,
you go to like online service or
no, no,
oh,
no.
just when you in a room of two or three or more, that's what the good book says is actually church.
Yeah, church is,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much where you make it.
Right.
It's
Gotcha. Gotcha. But I got a question for you. How do you feel? I did a video on 501c3. Uh, there are churches out there that
mhm.
are 501c3s and they got a tax exempt code. Um, and I did a video where I put a clip where they were actually making churches stick to regulations where they have things that where they can and can't say, or it would mess up their 501c3 tax exemption. How do you feel about churches that have 501c3s?
I don't feel that there is any church that needs to have a tax exemption because there is no way based under those, whether it's a 501c3 or something else, that you're going to be able to track every dollar that's being spent and given to that church. Even if
Mm.
the church were to open up the books, it doesn't matter what books you're seeing. It matters who's writing the numbers. Okay?
Right,
That's what's important any more than it doesn't matter when you go and vote who you vote for. What matters is who counts the votes. So
right.
it's unfortunate, but it's also, something that does carry weight. But I think that it's something that is taken advantage of at very least.
At the very least. So you feel that churches should pay taxes?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, you said that's what would show their legitimacy in your eyes. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Right, right. Okay. Okay. Wow, that's big. That's big. Um,
And I'm not saying that I don't go to church because when the plate comes around and they're talking about making sure that we have, put out what you can. I've been to church. Don't get me
right,
wrong, but to me, going to church, they say, well, you get to connect with other people and other this and other that, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that a lot of different ways. There's many ways I can do that. I don't need to come here to connect with you, and then when I'm done and you leave me with useless information and fill me with empty calories, you want me to
mm,
pay you on top of that?
right. So you don't believe in the 10% rule that you give to the church. You don't believe in that. You do you
No,
think that's a
because
scam?
that's absolutely 100% scam, and they know better. You already
Yeah.
know that they know better because it says in the book that you're taking 10% of what when you're not paying for anything.
Right. You don't have to pay taxes. You don't have to pay anything. When's the last time you went to church, Max? How long ago has it been since you've been in church?
I would say, did I go last year? I was not. No, because 2 years. I would say
2
2 years.
years. Wow.
And when I say church, and when you say church, we're talking about an actual building that
I'm
is
talking about an actual 501c3 or a church that pays taxes, an organization that is designed to be community help and things like that, you know.
the last time would have been, in all honesty, before I was injured, so it would have been in 2022.
2022. Okay, okay. Wow, wow. How do you feel about the state mixing itself with the church? Do you think that's illegal as well in your eyes?
I believe that depending on what it is, if they want to teach the kids anything, they could probably teach more from the texts and scriptures than what they're currently teaching them now. So, a separation of church, state and church, I can understand, and I understand why they do it, but there's a bit of hypocrisy involved in there as well because you're not truly completely ever separating state and church. There's always going to be that connection, whether or not they want to realize it or not, directly or indirectly. It's still going to be there. So, and what I mean by that is this: if you have somebody that believes that when they're getting their meal at the cafeteria that they need to sit and pray before they eat, they're going to still do it at school. You're not going to tell that person they can't do it, and for them to listen if they believe that's what
Right.
they're supposed to do. So, like I said, separation of state and church is limited to what the if you want to listen to the state, listen to the state. When here within the last month or so, they had a Satan club in the high schools. Yeah, I'm not making it up here in Olathe, Kansas,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, they voted for it, and they decided against it because the students didn't want to learn about it. Me, I'm thinking to myself, you got to realize there's one exists, so does the other. I'm not telling you that there needs to be a separate class for it, but they found that the end result was they ended up canceling the Satan class, but also canceled the Bible study groups as well
Mm,
because
mm,
you wouldn't, fairness,
right.
fairness.
Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. Um,
True story too. Like I said, Olathe,
wow,
Kansas school district. You can look it up. Olathe.
that's crazy. It doesn't sound. Listen, some crazy things happen over here in the Western culture, and that doesn't sound far fetched. Now, I want to ask you about in the people of color in our communities. We have a lot of like the president a couple months ago. He went to South Carolina, and he always go to churches, mainly black churches. And I did a video on this, and I see a lot of politicians going to black churches, and it makes me think, um, because of the 501c3 of the black church that's already in bed with the state, and that we have the president or elected officials come to the church to speak. Is this a conspiracy against the black church or the people that goes to the church? Do you see where I'm going here? Can you see the conflict of interest in all of this?
Can't you though?
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, really.
definitely.
My question is, if it's so obvious and you and I can both see it, then why can't anybody else?
I don't think
Is it
from a,
because
like
they
you
don't?
said, the intelligence level, I don't think that we all, like you said, with reading and comprehending and understanding, I think that this flies by a lot, thousands of people's heads, and they don't actually understand the context of what's going on. But I understand, I believe that preachers understand what's going on. I believe that the church who start church organizations. I went to a funeral, I'm gonna tell you, in New Orleans. Uh One of my great aunt passed, and she had this big funeral, right? And we had this funeral, and I see this preacher, and you know, we we're in a black church, and I see this Rolex watch he has on, and I'm like, wow, that's a very expensive watch, you know, being in church, and this was a we're in New Orleans, and that's a very it's not a city that has a lot of funds, right? So they got this thing called the line, okay, the second line where everybody gets in, and it's a lot of people walking down the street, and this preacher pulls up, and he got this 2000. It was the newest Benz, but he said on the pulpit, he said, and you see me and I look like money, but this is, but it was my first time hearing a preacher talking about how well off he is. And I'm just like, man. And then when we about to do the second line, he pulls up in this Benz with the watch, and I'm like, this is crazy. And this is before I kind of understood about the 501c3. This was probably 2 years ago, But my whole point is that I feel that there's a lot of people that's privy to information that they're not giving others the same information to understand exactly what's going on. And yeah, I think with that 501c3, because I got a business that I have to pay taxes on, you know. Actually in 2020, 2019, I went through something with the IRS. I had to go through a dispute because they wanted me to pay taxes on 240,000 that I made from my business that I went into my personal account. And I had a battle with that. And it just makes me think that if you had this tax exempt status, that you don't even have to pay taxes and all of this stuff. But my question to you is, yeah, a lot of people don't understand this or know about this, but why is why does this keep going on? And do you think it's in the best interest of people in color?
I definitely do not think it's in the best interest if we're talking about people of color especially,
Right,
because the little money they have, and when we're talking about people of color, not all people of color are in the best of shape financially. This
right,
is just me telling you something that
right.
isn't
This is
true.
stats. This is
Yeah,
statistics. Yeah,
and
this is
I don't have every one of these on the top of my head, but I if you give me like 12 seconds, I can come back out with them. I promise you. But there again, it wasn't anything I was prepared for. But it is something that I promise you can look up for yourself, and then you'll be the one that's
yeah. Every $1 for a person of color has the another necessity has 10. So we're
yes,
talking about a serious wealth gap there. Yeah.
huge. The majority of colored people live below the poverty
Poverty
level,
line. Yeah.
so it's not a big secret.
Right.
It's unbelievable, and the $460 billion the other day came up with that real fast, real quick.
Yeah.
But I think that, to your point, it's worse for people of color than anybody else. They're gonna feel it worse than anybody else, and it's gonna have long-standing effects to keep the people of color in a situation to where they are more or less still gonna be dependent on the government for all their various programs that they have in place, whether you want to, welfare,
Yeah.
food stamps, etc. There's entire generations of people, and I'm not picking on people of colors. It just happens to be the one group that they tend to pick on the most that mm, are so heavily reliant on the government to provide for them. And it's there
Right.
again, not me saying it, it's just me saying
That's
what
the
is
that's
it's
just
true.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's generations that have never worked a day in their life, have procreated, their children have done the same thing, and who's paying for it all? That's one problem.
The government.
Yeah.
So how would you fix what would you think can fix this? The situation and the community of the people in color. What do you think, if you was the head of, making decisions and changing things around, what would be some of the things you would do?
I remember when we first moved to the United States, and once we settled and decided Kansas City was going to be home, being poor people, whether we were black, white, whether we were Latino, or whether we were, of Asian descent, or whether we were, just looked at as white people, Jews. Doesn't matter what we were. We were just poor. Poor people were poor people. Nobody cares about.
Yeah.
So it was, but you had a you worked so much harder for what you had, and what you had was so much more valuable to you and meant so much more because you had to get it yourself. You know, you had to go from the ground up to, you know, you don't. Back then, there was no such thing as insta famous or overnight celebrity. Okay, that is not the path that one should want to take or should have to take. It should take hard work to get to where you want to get to, and if it doesn't, then you're never going to truly be thankful and appreciative of where you are because you really didn't have to do anything to get there in the first place.
Right. And that's a lot with the community. But when you said when you were poor, when you came to this country,
Mhm.
um, in the community, what I see what a lot of people of color is, they're so easily influenced to buy stuff. It's like they would buy, I go to a lot of houses when I test water and I show them their water quality, and I see how frugal people can be. But when I see the people of color, it's like they're not frugal at all. They can go spend at the grocery store for something just for a emotional buy. What why when you first came to America, to get where you had to go, were you guys very frugal where you know where your dollars went, you know what you spent it on, and you know why you spent it? Is that something that's common from people in the Jewish community when they come to America?
And if I want to look at it from, okay, so I'm 47 years old, all right?
Oh, okay.
So when we came, I was 4 years old. I was born in 77. So we're looking at
43.
1981.
Right.
Best time to come to America. They loved Russian Jews in America in 1981. Let me tell you, no, 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 no. They did not. They did not. They still don't. They never have. But that's okay. That's all right. But to come at that point in time when we did, they didn't make any exception for us. There was no accommodation made for us, meaning
Right.
that they did not go out of their way in order to make sure that we had anything that any other immigrant coming into. We weren't scientists, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? We weren't the World War II geniuses and Operation Paperclip, Project Paperclip, whichever one it is that they're picking up and putting up and making sure that they're all fishy. No, 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 no. We're poor immigrants, and at that point in time, we're just statistics. We're nobody. We're nothing.
Right.
So there was nothing made different for us. Whereas now, and I've seen this with my own eyes, there is a way that certain immigrants are treated differently than they were 40 plus years ago when my family and myself came as immigrants. So
Right.
to start out with nothing and to work your way up is one thing, but to start out with something and then just piggyback and continue to build, yeah. And being poor, like I said, I think that there's more to it in being poor and then being more relatable with a lot of other people because there's more poor people in the world than there are rich
And
people.
there are rich people. Right.
And I think everybody just can relate to being not being able to get what you want whenever you want it, not being always told yes and having your way. And that's always been, I mean, I never had anything handed to me.
Right.
It's never been the way that I was brought up to be, you know? Even when I had a procedure done here a couple weeks ago, a week ago, for my back to help my leg, the procedure
Right.
was done on my back to help my leg. I told the doctor, and after he's explained everything to me, I said, "Look, doctor, I have no expectation one way or the other. So if this helps, great. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to be angry at you. Just don't miss the right nerve. You know what I'm saying? Don't like get all
Right.
shaky about me and oh no 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 bad. Like don't leave me with no legs at all.
Right. Wow. Like, don't mess up.
Yeah, please. I already had that happen once. That's why I'm just sitting here in your office. But the same thing. You can't. It's you know, it, are we really that much of a product of our environment, and are we going to be content and be complacent with where we are in life? If you want more out of life, shouldn't you just want to be able to be motivated enough on your own to go out and get it? Why do
Right.
some people need to have someone be that person to push them and get them out of their comfort zone? Why touch what you said earlier? Why am I seeing men like Shannon Sharp, who played football, who has Super Bowl rings, wearing pants like a yoga pants like a woman, carrying a purse that has a show named Club Shay Shay? Like, stop,
Right.
just stop, stop,
Right.
stop.
I'm
I
great.
want
I'm glad you said that.
I want men. I mean,
Hmm.
when I was growing up, there was like Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and guys like Lyle Alzado and Michael Jordan, and there were guys like Joe Montana. I mean, these were warriors, gladiators, champions, people that
Right.
wanted to compete, wanted to win, but wanted to play the best out there in order to show that they were better, and not for any other reason than to prove it.
Right.
Whereas now, I
I'm
LeBron
saying, but
James has been force fed down people's throats of being the greatest of all time. You've either never seen Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar slash Lou Alcindor,
right.
or Will Chamberlain play the game of basketball. Do
Hmm.
not try to push that on me or anybody else just because you want him to be your poster boy. Stop.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's all yeah, and we're gonna get into a little bit of sport before we get out of here. But
Oh, sorry.
I wanted to ask you about the because you brought up Club Shay Shay wearing tight pants and the name is Shay Shay. When you look at the people of color in their community, do you what dysfunction do you see? I mean, because I see it. I'm here. I see that the guys don't take on that masculinity, and the women are looking like they're more masculine. The way they act and talk are more masculine than the men. Do you do you see the dysfunction, or do how does this look to you on the outside looking in?
Awful,
Right.
awful. It looks wrong on every level. There's no excuse for it. There's no rhyme or reason behind it. To have a grown man carry around a purse and wear clothes that are so tight, I just how can this man breathe?
That's
No.
what I'm saying. And I mean, when you see most of the people that are transgenders, right? I mean, I don't know if this just me, but when I see it, I see a lot of brothers. I see a lot of, and when I see them, I'm like embarrassed almost. When I'm certain places, I'm like, oh my God, why do all of them have to be people of color? I don't see
Magic
this with
Johnson's
other.
kid.
Huh? Yeah, Magic Johnson's kid. It's like I don't see this with the Indian kids. I don't see this with no other cultures. But why do I have to see so much dysfunction in mine? That's what just it just. But I just want to know: am I the only one? Am I just seeing this? Is it just me? But I want to understand how does it look on the outside from another someone else in their perspective looking at this because you don't see it in a lot of different cultures in the Muslim culture or you go to the Chinese culture, you don't see all of this dysfunction.
No, you never will because there's order, there's law, and there's consistency. So in Russia or the former Soviet Union, whatever you want to call it, it
Right.
hasn't really changed all that much. Jews still get persecuted. So do homosexuals. Can I say homosexual?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know how else to.
Right. Yeah. That's the political way to to say it.
I mean, I
You say
don't
no, no.
want to be. This is a business for you as much as it is an educational
Yeah,
for both of us.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to be offensive to anybody, but I don't.
Right.
I hate to even say that because they're just people to me. And
Right. They are just people. But
they are
uh
just people. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's how do I say this without being
disrespecting anybody.
yeah, and that's not and being disrespectful is one thing I don't want to be, but it's also necessary to be able to be vocal about it. But do you before before I say anything, let me ask you.
Right.
If you were to ask the same question to a person of color, would
Right.
you ask it the same way?
Same way about do they see the dysfunction in our culture?
Mhm.
Yeah, but I just don't think they see it. I feel that it's only a certain type of
You're right about
people
there.
that I could talk to. You know what I mean? About
Okay.
this. And there is some people of color that I can talk to about this, but for the majority, I feel like I would say this and it would just be like it just goes over their head. They don't understand. They don't have the wisdom or the intelligence to understand where I'm coming from. And I'm sure they see other cultures, but maybe people haven't seen other cultures. I sat down with a lot of different cultures and was able to eat with them, speak with them. So I'm probably coming from a different point of view than a lot of people can. So I can't, my experience with a lot of different types of people have been God has blessed me, to be able to speak with a lot of different people. So I'm so thankful of that. But I don't think a lot of people have had that experience. So I don't know. I try not to, because sometimes I talk to people and I feel like they're not literate enough. They don't have enough education to where it doesn't click. It's just like I'm not talking. I mean, I'm not getting through with them, you know. So, and not everybody. I'm not gonna say everybody. There's definitely some, but I don't think they experience different cultures. They don't see the they don't see it from the outside looking in, you know.
And the reason that I asked the question before I answer the question is not because I forgot the question, is
Right,
because of this. It seems to me, in my opinion, that
right,
the focused the ones that they focus on happen to be those of people that have means, stature, celebrity, etc., and scapegoat those individuals, but not in a way that a scapegoat would be like a pansy, like a fall guy, but more like
right.
an idol or an icon. And I speak of, and I'll be very specific, Magic Johnson, one of his children, and Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade, exactly.
So
This is what I'm saying.
why are you why? Just why? And not when I say that, I don't mean you, and I don't mean, like I said,
No, I'm saying the same thing. I feel like it's disrespectful to the culture because I don't see this in no other culture that is sustainable and that has merit and that has integrity and that has standing on a foundation. You know what I mean? So
and
it's to me, it's very disgraceful. You know?
why those two individuals in particular is what I can't seem to understand. Are those the only two? I doubt that very much, because no, I know for a fact those aren't the only two, but those are the two that have the most stature, champions, Olympians,
Right.
college champions.
But like you said, it goes to selecting those type of people, and it's like a idolizing. It's and it's damaging to the people of color in their community.
And
Um,
here's what the white people are going to say about what I just said. Well, why didn't
right,
you say anything about Jenner?
right,
Because I wasn't asked about that.
right.
And now I
Yeah,
brought it up, so I wasn't needed, or it wasn't necessary, rather, for anyone to ask me. But in case anybody does, I don't agree with that either.
right.
Oh,
But what I'm saying is, people of color is 14% of the country. Okay, it's 300 and almost 400 million people here. If you when you go out into the community, you will see much more rate in the people of color. You will see a much more conversion rate that you would see with anybody else. Okay. I
mhm.
go to a lot of places, and this is where I see the most of I see a man dressed like a woman, and I'm like, why is he doing this? I don't see it, in other cultures that's frequent and they have a lot of people. So that's all I'm saying. I'm saying is it just seems like you saying there is must be a marketing plan or maybe it's just dysfunction, but I can see the dysfunction and I don't it's something that I don't like. I don't think it's in God's vision of it. And I think that people have to see this and we have to say something. I mean, we can't just, everybody got their rights. It's just I feel uncomfortable sometimes speaking about this. You know what I
we,
mean?
we go full circle with that too. Rights. Too much of anything is not good. Too much
Right.
freedom is not good.
Yeah.
And this is what you get. I can do this. I can be a, okay. You cannot be a dog. You cannot be a cat. You can also not be a different sex.
Right.
You, if you are
Mm.
a female, I don't care if you grow breasts and chop off your member along with your giggleberries. What are you gonna do about the prostate? It's
Right.
did you forget about that?
Wow. Right. Right.
So I mean, you
Man.
can only take it so far, but you will never achieve what you strive to achieve in a way that is going to be There's no way to do it holiness. There's no way to do it in a godly way. There's no way to do it. So
Yeah,
stop. Just,
right.
I mean, just say no. That's what they need to make a campaign on, because it's an abomination, if I must be frank, and that's how I feel. And that doesn't go for just the black community. That's universal.
Anybody, right? Yeah.
Anybody. And
Now,
in Russia, and when I say the homosexuals, I was going to tell you that in Russia, it is a crime against the law to be homosexual. That's why there's no homosexuals in Russia. And
that's wow. That's crazy.
it's
Because
true.
me growing up, no, me growing up, I remember I was hearing this guy in my neighborhood, and he said, if you are if you are homosexual, you should be condemned. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, you know, and growing up, we picked on a lot of males that was homosexual, but that
When you
was
say
a
pick on them, l- let's just make sure that, because what pick on to me, and just because I'm a little bit older than you,
right,
could be different than what picking on to you might be. Me picking on guys, and it was always guys. I would never would I bully a female or somebody that was
right. No, we
weaker than
never.
me. No, because if you're gonna be the big dog, then you're gonna be on. You're gonna. I didn't pick on people weaker than me. Matter of fact, I was quite the opposite. But when I was younger, I was picked on quite a bit because they made, like I said, there was no exception. Nobody treated me differently. There was no special. Max doesn't know English, so let's teach him it before we put him in school. No, none of that happened. Sink or swim, figure it out, or don't. That's fine. Baptism by fire. No big deal. I'm man enough to do it. I got this. But it comes down to, man,
You asked me picking on. You were
yeah.
saying we said condemns. No, that mean that they deserve to re unalive themselves. Like that's what the
Oh, we're
message
talking about like
was.
delete.
Yes, we're talking about like delete. Like that was the
Okay. All right.
message
All right. All right. I got you.
uh growing up. And I remember one of my island friends was saying that, and they were like, yeah, this is they don't deserve to be around. And he
All
and
right.
they
All
were
right.
saying that this was in the good book. I remember this, this is when I was a kid that they were saying that this is how God wanted it. But no,
We can talk
growing up,
about that in Sodom and Gomorrah too.
yeah. Was that oh so that is that true? You saying
According to the
abomination? What does that
story,
mean?
according to the story, my dad, he's been to Israel many times now, up until recently, of course. But he talked to a rabbi, old rabbi, when he was there, and he was at the Dead Sea. And are you familiar with the Dead Sea?
No, no, no. I don't want to get it mistaken. Sound like the Red Sea, but
Close. The Red
yeah,
Sea is what Hamas wants, and what like Syria and
yeah,
Iran want to push the Israel and Jews into. They want to push them all into the Red Sea. That's where
right,
they want to drown us all. But it'll never happen. But the Dead Sea is it's the sea. It's I guess you could say it's between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
right,
And the story behind it is nothing lives in the Dead Sea just because of the amount of salinity that's in the water. There's so much salinity that they say you can't drown in it; you just float. So it's at a microbial level of life as far as what can survive. So you're not going to go fishing in the Dead Sea and expect to catch anything other than nothing. But people believe that the mud and the waters, they have healing properties, etc. And they say that it was formed when God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because they had broken his laws and sinned so much and so bad that when the cities were being destroyed and the people were dying, that their tears filled what was the crater, the opening, the crevice that turned into the Dead Sea. And that's why it's as salty as it is, named the way it is, and why there is no life in it, but it can heal you, so they say, with its water and what its firmament, if you will, its foundation. It
It
is
can
also
heal you. So the
healing properties.
it's
Yeah,
really salty water. That's what you're saying. It's like got a lot of salt in it.
it is not only the saltiest body of water on Earth. It is also the lowest point on the planet.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yes,
Yeah, that's cool. And it
yeah,
got healing properties.
yes,
And
yes.
people use it for that. Like they use that sea to heal, actual.
Every day, even right now,
Wow,
people believe in it. Yeah, 100%.
that's crazy. I
People
wanna
bring
I
back
wanna do some.
mud and yeah, absolutely.
Wow, wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Man, we touched a lot. We touched a lot here. I know it's 141, man, and definitely we've been on for 141, but hey man, we got another good one in. We got
Love
another good one in. Love it, man.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah, we
I
got to
really
make.
enjoy it.
I do too. I do too, man. I learned a lot. Every time hearing from you, man, I learn a lot. And it's good conversation. Great conversation. We definitely got to do this again. Um
Anytime you want, my brother. Anytime.
Anytime, man. Yes, yes. It definitely was great. But yeah, man, anything you want to close them out with before we get out of here? Any questions you wanted to ask me? I know I've been asking you a lot of questions, man. Just
What do you do for fun?
what I do for fun.
Yeah.
Uh what do I do for fun? If you say read, I talk to people, I hang out with friends, I guess, for fun. That's what I do for fun. I'm not a gamer or nothing, but I play games with my kids, just to kick it with them. But
And I won't get too personal on that part because I keep that out as well. If you got kids, we all know I got a
yeah,
couple too.
yeah.
I won't ask names and like that. We can
Yeah.
talk about that kind of stuff on the phone. People that
Right, right, right. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, we can get to that, but yeah, we don't have to get all into that on here. You know how it gets.
yeah.
But yeah, that's what I do for fun. Why? What do you do for fun, Max?
I'm limited a little bit
Oh,
more than
because of your
you.
injury. Yeah.
Yeah. Today, for fun, I took my family to the airport. They went to New York City, and my brother-in-law, and his wife and their children, they live in Boston, so they're going to drive to Boston. They're going to stay there. And tomorrow, they're going to drive back down. They're going to go to I forgot. They're not going to the Met, but they're going to the Natural History Museum, I believe, in New York. The
Mm-hmm.
weather's supposed to be a little cold and rainy, so it's a great day to go to a museum in a city that you haven't been to. My wife's been, but my children they have not. So I think it's going to be really good. I wish I was there, but
Wow.
unfortunately, I know that it's okay.
Right.
Okay, I'm where I'm
Right.
supposed to be with who I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be with, so I'm not complaining.
Wow.
It's wonderful, and they got there safely, so I'm
Right.
super happy. I'm super happy. They're gonna go to in Boston. My brother-in-law, he's awesome, dude. But he used to play ball with like Paul Pierce. He still does, and like
Oh,
Kevin
cool.
Garnett, and he
Yeah.
knows people on the Celtics. I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying this or not, and I'm not
Right.
saying this to be like boastful by
Right.
any means. But when they're there, they're going to go to the Celtics and the Suns game, which are my son's teams. So they're
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's gonna be really cool, and then they're gonna just do the sightseeing and spend time with family and, reconnect because they don't see each other very often being where they are and where we are here in the Midwest, so it's gonna be nice, it's gonna be fun, but I take them there, I enjoy doing a lot of things you do as far as being able to talk and meet new people and engage in meaningful conversations that I think people can take something from. I like to collect sports cards.
Okay. Nice. No,
I've
that's
been
nice.
doing it all my life, and I love it.
Right. I seen, and I'm so glad you said that because I seen a guy. He had a Orlando Magic player, and he bought a sports car for like 160,000. And I said, I need to start collecting these things. My dad used to collect them back in the days, and he used to always have them. I don't know if he still has them, but he used to have baseballs with signatures and you know, but he collected a lot of memorabilia. So
Yeah,
I was thinking like I need to start doing this. Like this stuff is pretty much worth a lot.
it is. It's a slippery slope with that kind of stuff, and there is a lot that's you know 4, 5, 6, 7 figures. It's crazy, and I'm a simple guy. Not that I'm frugal, but I don't need top notch, best of anything, or
Right.
even my favorite player by any means. I don't need all their stuff, but but as long as I've been collecting, I do have some pretty cool stuff. Uh, like when I talk to you here, I got like Joe Montana autograph. I got a bunch of Joe Montana, Lyle Alzado,
Oh wow.
yeah, Kobe, of course, and Michael Jordan. I got 6 autographs of each, 6 championships of Jordan, and I got 6 for Kobe, even though he's only got 5, but one to grow on, even though he's no longer with us. And then I
Right.
got Patrick Mahomes.
Oh wow. That's a big one right there.
Yeah, I got a couple. I got 2 Patrick Mahomes autographs, not on the wall here, but on cards, on sports cards. Uh, 3 Tom Brady's, a lot of autographs. I really, I've narrowed it down to. I mean, there's so much to collect that just autographs is really all I collect, and I don't sell anything. I don't sell,
Wow.
and if I turn this green screen off behind me, there's literally just not like a hoarder, nothing like that. But
Right.
everything's organized. I've got everything categorized and sets, etc. And it's fun for
That's
me. It's
cool.
relaxing. It's nerd stuff, but
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool though, man. I think I'm gonna get into my collecting stage. Yeah.
and it doesn't even have to be sports. I got like garbage pail kids. I got Marvel cards. I got DC cards. You
Hmm.
know, just it doesn't even have to be sports stuff.
Right.
It's just fun. It takes me back to you know when times were simpler, not
Yeah.
better necessarily, but simpler.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm an 80s baby. I know you was born in 70s. I was born in 85, so I think you're like
Yeah,
9 years older than me. Yeah.
you're right
Yeah.
about
So
my brother's
yeah.
age. He was born February 1st, '86.
Wow. Yeah. February 1st. Yeah, we're Aquarius, man. I know you probably don't even follow those signs and uh
I'm aware of them because, like I said, one needs to know, so does the other. So, yeah.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. All right, Max. Well, hey, man, this goes on your channel and mine. We're gonna do this again. We definitely going to, man. I appreciate the talks, man. It's an hour later where I'm at. So it's 12 o'clock where you at, but it's 1 o'clock where I'm at. So,
I
well,
forgot
I
all
think
about
we
the
get
daylight
time.
savings.
Yeah, I think we get our time back though. I think it goes back or something, right? Or we get another hour. I don't know how
No,
that
we
works.
lost one.
We lost one.
Bring,
Oh
bring
man.
forward, fall back.
Gotcha. Sucks. All right. Well, you know, it was a blessing, man, talking to you and getting information from you. It's always great to hear from you and speak to you, man. I want to let you know that. So,
Oh, likewise, absolutely. Pleasure is all mine. Thank
oh man. So, hey, we're gonna do this again, Max. I appreciate y'all for watching. What's the name of your YouTube, Max?
you. Max has sports and life.
Max Cast Sports and Life.
Yes,
Okay, I'm
sir.
gonna have to get you on Facebook and YouTube. I gotta make sure I subscribe to you. So, hey man, we're gonna catch y'all in the next one. Probably do it again. We're gonna make this common. So we'll catch y'all in the next one. Max, you have a good night, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Rob. You too. Everybody have a great night. Have a great week coming up.
Yeah. Praise it to the most high.
Most
Night,
high.
Max.
Bye, my brother.
Night.